It's time for your political maniacs. Donald Trump's musical chairs continues as Rex Tillerson is out as the Secretary of State after just 14 months on the job. President Trump tweeted that he is replacing Tillerson with CIA Director Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo will be replaced by nominee Gina Haspel, who will be the first female CIA director but oversaw the controversial torture program that President Obama dismantled during his time in office. Now here's the question, America. Who will be next to get the axe in season 2 of President Trump's White House? Yes, indeed, America, it is true. It is clearly a reality show of epic proportion. Just think about who's out. This is just the cabinet, right? Like, so I think you have like 3 shows happening simultaneously. It's almost like, there's like, have anybody watch NBC? Like you have like Chicago Med and Chicago Fire and Chicago PD and all the shows sort of like, they're like all different shows, but there's crossover episodes. This is what I feel like we're living in. So you have like the Trump Cabinet, which is one show. Then you have the Trump White House, which is another show. And then you have Trump in the Media, which is the 3rd show. And all these shows, like they all come on Wednesday night. And so, and they're all like, and right now Donald Trump is like basically recasting all of the shows. So, and first, like, I mean, we're going to talk about the cabinet in a minute. But first you have the Trump White House show, which like the casting there has been, they're firing everybody, right? So now we know that likely, Hope Hicks is now gone. We know that his personal assistant, he was escorted out. He was walked out of the White House without enough time to even grab his jacket, right? It's very likely that McMaster, who is the national security advisor, he'll be out by the end of the month. And Gary Cohn, who was his economic advisor, quit, and he's being replaced by Larry Kudlow, who is another TV star. So I think they put Larry Kudlow in because they think Larry Kudlow will be a ratings boom. Right? So that's what's happening in the White House episode. Then you have the cabinet episode. And President Trump, while talking to reporters before boarding Marine One, pretty much said, he's like, I'm almost perfectly okay with my cabinet. Meaning there's more we're trying to rotate the crop some more. So here's who's out currently. Right? So Larry Puzder, he didn't even make it past nomination, so he's axed. Right? And we have a great graphic if you're watching this online. Right? Tom Price, HHS Secretary, he's out. John Kelly, who was formerly at Homeland Security, he's now out because he's the Chief of Staff, and his Chief of Staff days are numbered. Then you have Steve Bannon, he's out. Rance Previs, he's out. Now you have Tillerson, who's out. So now on your short list left, you have Rick Perry, and there's a lot of sources saying that Rick Perry will be moving to Veteran Affairs because Sulkin, who is the Veteran Affairs Secretary, he'll be out shortly. Then you have Betsy DeVos, who White House sources have indicated to us here at the Fowler Show and to other places that they were very dismayed by her performance on, and we're going to talk about later on the show, her performance on CBS. Then you have Ben Carson, who spent almost spent $31,000 of taxpayer money on a dining table. Yes, indeed, America. I'm not making this up. I'm just telling it to you like it is. And so you have, I mean, the only people that you really have that are, and then you have Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who some days he's in, some days he's out. Jeff Sessions is almost like the Omarosa of Celebrity Apprentice. Like, you just never know when Omarosa is going to come back. But she's always sort of on the outs, but she's good for the ratings. So that gets you to where, like, I mean, it's insane though. Like and no, don't get me wrong. Like, America, like, I'm not going to knock the president because I think I'm not going to knock the president for getting rid of Rex Tillerson, because I do believe that the president should have his team. Like, I'm a big believer. You should have whoever the hell you want as long as they're qualified, right? And if you don't get along with Tillerson, then he should go. And if you want Mike Pompeo, you should have him. And the sense we get on the Hill is that Pompeo will likely pass through nomination relatively quickly, and you'll have a little bit of groupthink, because the reason why President Trump says he wants Mike Pompeo is because him and Mike Pompeo think alike. Now, I'm not sure if that's who I would want to my Secretary of State, because I'll tell you right here at our Fowler Show team, I constantly battle with my team, and I think that makes for a better team when there's tension and battling. It makes your team better, right? Because you have a team that is, you know, like, all right, we have some tension, but tension is good. Anyway, I digress. So there's that, right? And so now, we as Americans are forced to deal with a White House and a government that's in utter chaos. And let's not forget that there are 40 ambassadorships that have not been filled, and not small ambassadorships. Like, we don't have an ambassador to South Korea currently. We also don't have an ambassador to Syria currently. We don't have an ambassador to Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of countries where we don't have an ambassador, and we're missing tons of undersecretaries and tons of Schedule C appointments that are necessary for our diplomatic arms to function. And so all we're left with is the Department of Defense, right? Because here's the thing, and I think Secretary Mattis said this best: if you don't have diplomacy, I'm going to need more money for bullets, because you have to have a balance between defense and state, and they should work together in tandem, but the diplomacy should be the first foray and defense should come after. Right? Like, we have muscle, but we like to talk to you. That's how this game should go. But clearly, like I said, we're playing a game of musical chairs, and it's all about to go down. So let's talk about the new Secretary of State for a minute. Now, he will likely sail through confirmation, but Mike Pompeo is the #1 of all-time recipient of Coke industry money. Over $900,000, according to OpenSecret.org. So he's gotten a lot of money from the Koch brothers, meaning the Koch brothers will practically run the State Department. And the new CIA director has her own problems. Not only is she responsible for, during her time she was in charge of one of the CIA's most controversial programs, the torturing of terror suspects in the early fight against Al-Qaeda. She was involved in interrogating 2 suspects. The methods were used against men, including waterboarding, all the ugliness that we knew that President Obama really worked on sort of reversing. She was the head of it all. And now she's the one running our Central Intelligence Agency. So it's caused a stir on Capitol Hill from those on the left, and from people like Rand Paul, who are saying, and John McCain, who are like, she violated the Geneva Protocol, and I'm not sure if she should be the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. And so this is going to be a showdown between the Senate and the White House to figure out who will actually run the CIA. America, we're in trouble. Maybe Omarosa was right when she said, we're in trouble. But all I can tell you right now is we're playing a heck of a game of musical chairs. Season 2 of the Trump administration.